We've gone down a few rutted and remote rural roads here on Country Life, and often we're not quite sure what we'll find at the end. That was the case for producer Sally Round when she arrived at an old woolshed in the heart of rugged King Country, where she met a man getting on in years and with a few yarns to tell.
That's a piece of Tannneau, a young Tannneau that I tied. First time I was up in the bush, I can remember Dad tying one and saying to me, if you do that and pick that stick up when you're an old man, you'll have a walking stick.
Lew Pickens is a man with the bush in his blood. It flows through his veins and in the things around him, like the stick he's holding.
Yeah, I was born up in north of Monterey in 1943. I think of myself much as a bushman or a hunter as I do a farmer, really. And those bush skills allowed me to catch eels, catch goats, and I could suss nature out pretty good.
The walking stick has a loop at the top to grip. That's the tie Lew's talking about, twisted when it was still a sapling poking up from the bush floor.
It's very, very supple and very strong. And if you were making a bow out of New Zealand timber, I would strongly recommend that you use Tannneau because it's very strong and very bendy.
Lew strokes the grooves of his stick, which gleams against the dark, dusty floor of the woolshed.
This one I've played around with and put a bit of carving on it, and it looks quite okay. Yeah, I put my name on it, date of birth, stick tied, 2005.
And now you need the stick.
I do need it.
Lew's pale eyes scrunch up when he smiles. You can imagine him striding through the bush in his younger days. He's worked on the land all his life, originally up north, where he lived his first 60 years.
I was lucky because I had the mentality. Like when I was 18, I had calluses on my hands, and my hands were like 50-year-olds. And I took great pride in those calluses. It must be my Irish ancestry.
Lew gets up from the chair. He wants to show me round, and there's a lot in this woolshed, most of it about the culture and traditions of life and work in the bush.
Until probably about 1900, a lot of people just had camp ovens. What here is a typical old bush camp chimney. It would have been wider in the bush camp, but this is where only place I could have it. It's 8 feet wide by 9 feet deep. And you'd cook in a bush camp of, say, 40 men. There'd be a cook, and he'd have 6 or 8 camp ovens, and he'd cook in these camp ovens, otherwise known as Dutch ovens. Whatever you can cook in an oven, you can cook in a Dutch oven. So you have a fire there, and you shovel out a shovelful of embers, and set a camp oven on top of it, and then whatever heat you have coming up, you need twice as much on the top because of heat rises. And so you can cook bread, you can cook a roast, you can cook cakes, you can do whatever you want to.
And are you a bit of a Dutch oven chef yourself?
No, I can cook a roast, and I like cooking stews, but mine are pretty basic, just the same as the old bush tucker that the fellas used to eat. Dad used to love pulling his camp ovens out now and again, blackberry season. He'd make blackberry pies for the grandkids.
The family's here too. This is Craig, Lew's son.
We'd go down to what they call Poppy, the place, the Perum, and I remember going down to there and take the camp ovens and you'd cook chips, and you'd have sausages and chips over the fire when you're a child. And I'd do the same with my girls. We'll go down to the river and we'll take the camp oven, and it was one of their highlights to go down there. They'd swim and play, and they'd learn to drive and learn to shoot, and you'd get a fire going in the camp oven, and you'd have fish or chips and sausages, and it's just something that we've always done, and it's
a tradition of your
sort
family.
Of a tradition thing. It's a memory, and it's something you just carry on because it's so enjoyable teaching them with a fire and teaching them everything. It's just simple, basic things.
From the floor to the ceiling, there's stuff hanging stacked on hooks and shelves piled high. A lot of it to do with clearing the bush.
We unload a lot of the stuff as it come down from the north and just stacked it in there. Then one day I had a bright idea starting to hang things up and organise it. And it turned into what people call a museum, but it's just a collection of stuff we've acquired over the years.
You said you were a bit of a hoarder, Lew.
Well, yeah, I guess I am really. I guess, yeah, definitely.
What are the oldest items here?
Well, what would be, Craig, some of these old bullock yokes are pretty old, crosscut saws. And, so
wow.
This back part here is mainly workshop.
And look at those saws up there.
Yep. Yeah, timberjacks. This is mainly bush gear, old farm gear. My grandfather's old forge there. Horse collars, 9-foot carry drag up there, and old chainsaws.
How did you get time to do all this when you were farming?
Well, yeah, I did lease the farm for 4 years, which gave me a bit of a break, and that's when I did this. And there's quite a collection of stuff here that is all obsolete, like, old tape measures, those are for setting saws. Yeah, old chainsaw blades.
It's stuff I've been around my whole life. I've kicked my toes on it in the shed, I've shifted it, don't know how many times. You've played with stuff, and now you see it all out. You can come here and you see it, and it doesn't matter how often you come here, you sit down and you'll see something you haven't seen for a long time, or you remember you used to play with it, or like the forge used to make knives as a kid and things like that. Yeah, it's been a part of my life. It's just normal.
Dad's father started off milling and in the bush, and his father came out from America and had a block of Tutakaka, Nungaroo, and he worked that bush there and must have made money because they both finished up in Mount Albert and had a little farm on the side of Mount Albert, and later cut that up. But Dad didn't like the city. He moved back up into the north because there was land up there that they'd worked the bush off, a big native bush, and it was steep country on the east coast. The main divide went up the main divide, and it was they worked it with a bush tram. Parker Lamb Timber Company in Auckland worked it, and with steam haulers. Would have been about 40 men in the bush, and saw crosscut saw, steam haulers. They had steam winches that winched it into the railway line, and then the rail was only about 4 miles long, and it went down to the coast, and then they floated it down to Auckland by raft.
In the early days, bullocks were used to pull the logs out of the bush. Lew played around with bullock driving too. Bullockies, they called the drivers.
1900, there would have been hundreds of teams around about, especially up north of the Carry.
It's the bullock yokes.
That's a bullock yoke up
With
there.
the bell.
And that set of horns, a good set of horns off on the Dad's bullocks, but that's only 42 inches across here. The Hereford he kept solely for the horns, and that finished up, they were 57 inches across from tip to tip, straight across. But that's a good set.
And
of
why
horns.
the bell?
Well, they'd let the bullocks go at night in the bush and put a bell around them in the morning. The bullocks can live in the bush, and they're just on the bush tucker, and in the morning you'd hear them tinkling around the hill, so you find them. And they say old bullocks, a cunning old bullock, he'd know and he'd rest his bell in the punga, and so it didn't make any sound, and he'd stand here at about daylight and just rest his bell in the punga. But the old bullock, he was a bit cunning. He put a bit of animal fat in one ear, and when the flies, daylight come and the flies started floating around, he'd start shaking his head. Bullocks are strong. It's just the way they're yoked up, works for the bush. Horses were pretty hopeless in the bush working as a team. And to pull a big log, if you had a good team of bullocks, they'd pull a 5-ton log. And and just how you go about it, the tricks that went with it. It's an art that's lost, and especially in New Zealand.
Lew left school at 14. He was dyslexic, although they didn't know about that in those days. He went on the farm and did his fair share of clearing and planting pines. He planted some of the first pine trees up in the north. But his skill was developing the land for farming, fencing and the like. And his love was getting into the bush, but always with an eye on his wallet, because he didn't get a wage on the farm.
Well, to make a bit of pocket money, I could get the slabs. I was allowed to cut the slabs up and sell for £1 a tonne for pocket money. And I sold about three tonne a year if I was lucky. I had a circular saw, like, the old saw bench, and cutting that up with an old single banger motor that come out of the cow shed. Everything here's got memories. Old eel nets up there that we fished with. Caught eels a lot because we lived at the top of the Hikarangi swamp where the farm was and had access to that, and good eel fishermen.
And what did you do with the eels?
Took them into Kamo to factory there. Best I did was a tonne a night for 4 nights, 4 tonne and 4 nights and that was pretty good money, $550 a tonne, only 55 cents a kilo, but in those days it was damn good money. Go down the river and fish, and it was good fun. And apart from that, it's always good fun fishing, but it's good fun when you're making money out of it. Yeah, and goats were good money, and it was easy to catch goats. One particular time, it was a Sunday, and I was up catching goats, and I'd caught 7 white nannies that day and led them out and had them tied up to the fence. And Julie come up just on dark as I was leading the last goat out of the bush and said, there's a sale at Turkey tomorrow, Monday. This is in about 85 probably. And down to Turkey, I know 7 goats I'd led out of the bush on the day before. They were the top pen at the Turkey sale and made $247 each. That was about $1,700 for a day's.
That's pretty good in those days.
In those days, it was big money.
How would you catch a goat live and be able to lead it out?
A dog that didn't bite them too hard or bail them up on the thing, and if it bit too hard, well, you took it to the vets and got the eye teeth cut off, so they couldn't do the damage. Did that with one dog.
You can hear Lew's wife, Julie, and grandkids there. The family's listening to Lew's stories too.
Around, I was more of what I considered a developer. I love developing country, putting fences up, putting it into grass, cutting bush, and that was my strength, I believe, in farming, was really developing land, and 99% of it was done by hand. In those days, you sowed your seed by hand. You made a sowing bag, had it around your stomach and carried your bags up the hill.
Craig's partner puts a tape recorder down next to us, grabbing his memories before they're lost. She's also called Julie, and she wants to learn more from Lew, as they'd like to reopen the woolshed to visitors when they're not so busy with the little kids.
My name is Julie Tannneau. I'm French. I came 12 years ago with my backpack, as you do, just to travel and get away from home and do something different. Wanted to experience something different and wanted to try some wolfing, and went wolfing. And
You came to this farm?
Came to Craig's farm in Northland and got along and liked the place, liked the man, obviously. And still here 12 years later and 2 kids. I was always interested in farming and always interested in the more extensive farming. My family had a farm and that was more intensive, so all indoor, feeding twice or 3 times a day, bring the food to them, cut everything, and come here and everything's outside all year round. Don't have to bring inside for the winter. And here's they just eat grass all year round, and I just think that's brilliant. And I like the space. We're pretty isolated, but yes, you're alone physically, but the community's there, and you know it's there. That's what I wanted to bring my children in, space that if they can just go outside, roam around, experience life without having to be like, watch out, there's a car, don't touch that, oh, that's dirty. Well, it's dirty, but just put your hands in it and eat the dirt, eat the grass, touch the animals, and just figure out what it's like to be alive.
Yeah, only about 3 weeks ago there was a pig in the trap and then he dug his way out of it.
We're on a farm track with neighbour Bernie.
It's hope he's still in that trap. You always said to get a good pig. Yeah, you did, right. A lot of good pigs come out of that trap.
A wild pig's been caught, and everyone's headed out to the back of the farm to get it, including Julie, Lew's wife, and little Poppy, his granddaughter. The land's hilly, beautiful, and almost totally surrounded by forest. There used to be logging trams on these tracks to haul the native trees out in the old days.
Amazing country. Come out there, steep country, and come into a beautiful little...
Beautiful little valley.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Well, us three are taking off for now, Luke.
Yeah, my Bernie, it'll be... Yeah, probably as good a growth as you'll get any time of the year now.
Yeah, well, I suppose Craig will be busy silage next. Yeah, Perry is behind us, so keep going. Yeah, then I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I follow. When I brought Ben out here yesterday to pick his mic up out in Tannneau, Lew, that he was telling me when he was undersowing Tannneau, he has 5 deer standing on the knob there looking down at him, 5 hinds.
Yeah. But God, yeah. Deer numbers have just bred up phenomenally, eh? Yeah. There's a lack of hunters. People aren't hunting like they used to. No helicopter shooting. And that's been no helicopters now for close on 30 years since they discovered 1080 and a couple of deer. And the numbers have just exploded. The deer numbers and pest numbers are higher than, it's probably higher as they were back in the early 60s. Believe it or not, they've got to do something major.
We're still heading towards the trap. It's at the far end of the farm.
Hope you hasn't got out, Ernie.
I hope it hadn't.
Who built the tracks?
I did when I was here. I had 12 round the farm. A great way to catch pinks. I used to have dogs, but also you needed the traps. The traps work while you're sleeping. And I could catch up to, well, I've caught up to 10 in a trap at one time.
Tell me about this pig trap.
It's just a design I made, very simple, cheap. Used to cost about $100 to make one. And the doc used to buy one of the heads for TB, to check for TB and the glands around the neck. And I'd make about $1,000, $1,100 a year out of pig's heads, and more than paid for the traps 10 times over.
How do you catch them? How does the trap
The
work?
door, see, that's the door there where Bernie is, and that pulls down, leaves it open. And when the pig goes in, he trips something and it comes down and automatically pegs it. You see those posts there, and there's a couple of posts in the bottom. But you go and have a look at it.
Is there any bait in there?
Yeah, we normally put a dead goat in there or a dead sheep. But it'd be better if we had maize, but that costs you money, so we just use.
So what would have been put in there?
Probably a dead sheep, I'd say. And they come around and tidy the job up.
Let's get out and have a look.
Hang on there, Poppy, you're right. You stay in the car with me.
How many pigs are you catching
I'm probably averaging, I'm over 100 a year I'm getting just off the farm here. I think I'm in the last 4 years up to over 500 something odd pigs I've got. Was keeping a tally, but...
How many traps on the farm?
There's about 8 traps around. I run those, but the pigs are getting a bit trap shy. I do a lot of shooting, and some nights I go out and 4, 5, 6 a night.
What sort of damage do they do?
They do a lot of pastoral damage. The bigger pigs can, especially lambing time, you can have pigs going around killing the lambs, which can be quite detrimental to your lambing percentages and things. So we try and get on top of the pigs before lambing, and they just go around and root up all the pasture. Like sometimes we can have 20, 30 hectares rooted up around the place, and it's just certain paddocks get problems. So.
Did you have many lambs lost this year due to pigs?
It's hard to say. I don't think this year, no. I know the neighbours, one paddock next door, I think they were about 50% lambing, and they reckon a lot of pigs, and they're finding a lot of skinned out lambs and things. So, but yeah, I don't think I have too many problems in the last few years.
Are you getting more and more pigs, or is it just...
There has been a real increase with the forestry next door being harvested, and then the regrowth, and the hunters aren't getting into there, and the pigs definitely built up. But when you're surrounded 2/3 by bush, and you've probably got a boundary of about 7 kilometres of native bush and forestry, it's hard to keep on top of.
Back in the woolshed, the hamper comes out and the big table's laid for lunch. It's wild pork, funnily enough. This is a place where family and friends gather amid all the memories. Lew takes a seat. Beside him, his stick, made of that strong and supple tanikaha, tied and grown in the bush.
And now you need the stick.
I do need it.
What happened with you?
I got diabetes and circulation packed up in my legs, feet. And I consider I'm very lucky. to have made it coming up 83, and I've lucky it's a foot end that went, not the top.
Still got one leg.
Yeah, well, half a foot that's cut off. Yeah, they've taken. I've had 5 years of hospitals and.
For an active man, that would have been pretty hard.
Oh, I handled it pretty good. I feel. I spent 145 days in hospital, and I'm lucky. I've been able to put up with that, no sweat. Really, it's been a piece of cake. I treat it like another challenge.